Today we mark the Feast of All Saints. Now, when we say saints, it is easy to focus on those people who died for our faith, like Lawrence or Stephen, or who spread the gospel to new lands, like Paul or Patrick, or who gave up lives of luxury to serve others, like Francis or Bridget. We see this tendency in the Roman Catholic Church's development of a second, lesser feast of All Souls' Day. The true saints get one day, and the rest of us, people striving to do what we can, but stumbling along the way in a world filled with temptations and messages of selfishness and scarcity, we get a lesser second day. But when we celebrate All Saints' Day in the Episcopal Church, we are meant to be celebrating the entirety of the communion of saints. The belief that all of us, those who have gone before us over the millennia, who strove to live in love, those of us laboring today, and those who will face the world in ages to come, all of us are united through Christ and will live together in peace in the day of the Lord. In 1984, a movie came out, Places in the Heart. Now, looking back from 40 years on, it is dated. It papers over the horrors of the Great Depression and the Jim Crow South and uses them as a backdrop for a story about family relations. And it has many subplots going on that are mostly left at loose ends when the final scene appears, making it feel incomplete. But it is this final scene that is the most meaningful, one that has stuck with me, though I've only seen the film once or twice in its entirety, and one that critics have commented on throughout the decades. In it, the entire cast, the heroes, the villains, the minor characters, the major characters, the living, and the dead, everyone is gathered together in a single, small, simple country church as communion is passed from one to the next. People who had murdered a man in a lynching and chased another out of town under the hoods of the Klan sit next to these men. The sheriff who was killed in an act of accidental, senseless violence sits next to the man who shot him down. The children who have been scarred by all this violence that they have witnessed and have yet learned to love sit next to their loving mother and deceased father, and all share in one bread and one cup. It is an image of the communion of saints made manifest, scene that I have felt and seen recreated at funerals and celebrations of the Eucharist throughout the years. Today is a celebration of a feast of this communion, a day in which the scene is recreated in a special way as we remember our ancestors in faith, in truth, and in biology, those that have gone before us with all of their faults, who nonetheless did the best they could with their time on this earth. It is a day to remember them, not as perfect, but as human, to make our peace with the hurts that they have caused, to forgive them their humanity, and love the image of God within them. And it is a day to make peace with those still living, to look upon those who have hurt us and those around us with love. Not to say that those hurts are not real, but to say that those hurts are often a symptom of a disease. Hurting people hurt others. And we have a choice in this world to continue to perpetuate a cycle of violence, a cycle of hate, a cycle of hurt, or we can choose forgiveness, choose love, choose peace, choose to break that cycle. And this is not a choice that is easy. It's not one that can be made just once. There is true evil in this world. There is true brokenness. Choosing forgiveness, love, and peace requires ongoing dedication to struggle against human instinct. It means mourning with and comforting those whose lives have been destroyed by violence and senselessness. It means, like I spent yesterday doing, attending the funeral of a young Black man, Keyshawn Galt, just 12 years older than my own Ezekiel, a man who had been raised by a single mother and who had struggled with learning and developmental disabilities, who had overcome the odds of being a large, dark-skinned Black teenage boy in this city, of being seen as dangerous by teachers, police, and others, to graduate high school, and to find work with the promise of job security, benefits, and the hope of advancement in a government agency, only to be gunned down at work while sitting in the front seat of a moving, marked vehicle. It means grieving his death and bearing witness to the sobs of his mother who had lost her only child, the center of her life. It means knowing that somewhere out there is the person who murdered this young man, who destroyed the lives of his mother and those who knew Keyshawn and saw his smile fill up a room. And that person, and the person who drove the stolen vehicle while the murderer riddled a truck full of bullets, through some brokenness in their own lives, felt justified in their actions. And it means loving those people, knowing that within each of them is the image of God, knowing that they have been so hurt by this world that in that moment, when they shattered the world of Angel, Keyshawn's mother, and the world of everyone who knew Keyshawn and worked alongside him, they could not see beyond their own pain, their own hurt, and their own hate to see the image of God in Keyshawn and Lamar and Myron, his coworkers. It means loving these individuals because we choose to follow Christ, not just when it is easy, but when it is hard. It means accepting that others are going to see that love and revile us for it. It means seeking righteousness and justice when vengeance and vigilantism is so much easier. It means seeking peace when war and violence seem inevitable. It means seeing God in the midst of a world filled with demonic forces. It means being merciful in a world full of ruthlessness. It means finding strength in meekness, in staying even-tempered and reserved, even when you want to scream and throw things and just lash out. It means being both mourner and comforter in the midst of pain. It means looking first at how others are impacted, especially those with the least wealth and voice in all of the decisions you make. Not merely giving voice to the voiceless, but providing them with the ability to be their own voices. Feast of All Saints is a day to commit ourselves once more to striving to live the life that God is calling us all to. It is a day to remember that this world is broken and to pledge to bring healing into it. It is a day to live as God's children in the here and now and not just in the world to come. It is a day to work to bring to earth a world in which there will be no more hunger, no more thirst, in which God will wipe away every tear from every eye, and all will live together in peace under the shelter of God's wing. Amen.